1 week season.
What's going on, OWS fam, the Sharp Football Analysis Nation? Welcome back to Searching for Ceiling, presented by 1 week season and Sharp Football Analysis. You know me, I am Hilow. We will be joined very shortly by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Rich Hribar. Before we get into that, a quick synopsis of this week 5 main slate. We've got bye weeks. We've got a London game. That makes it a smaller slate again, similar to last week. There's some glaring differences when we look at last week versus this slate, though we don't have Christian McCaffrey. We don't have Puka Nacua. We are missing a lot of the top quarterbacks, so that makes this slate rather wide open. We know chalk is going to form. We are not here to talk about that. What we are here, though, to do is search for that upside, search for ceiling, find those places where we can unlock some hidden upside. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Rich Hribar, how we doing in week 5, man?
Yeah, we flipped the calendar over. First month NFL season in the books. It's October. We're starting to get ready. Hopefully, Halloween. We're gonna get some hopefully more tricks, more treats than tricks for everyone. This
month. Bring it on both. We'll take it all.
Yeah, we'll get some of that too, especially with some of these injuries we've already had.
Right.
Impacting this is kind of like the first slate. We've had some injuries already, but this is the first slate where I feel like gamers really want to adjust for injuries right now.
Yeah, and I mentioned in the lead into this, and we were talking before we jumped on here, that like this slate has some similarities to the last 2 weeks, but it is a very unique slate in and of itself. We're missing a lot of top end quarterbacks. We have some injuries. We have Jaden Daniels coming back from injury. We have Jalen Hurts and the Eagles playing the Broncos, and that there's very few paths for that game environment to take off. And then we have all these running back injuries. We are flooded now with these sub 5K running backs who are expected to be taking over larger shares of their individual backfields. So, and we just got potentially Rico Dowdle added to that equation this morning, with Chuba Hubbard expected to be out multiple games now, labeled week to week. So, I mean, there's the Cardinals situation. There's the Panthers situation. We have the Buccaneers situation. There's all these spots now where it kind of becomes very, very clear, like where the field is going to go to access some value. Beyond that, like this slate is pretty wide open, man. There's no like clear and away top game environment on the slate. Like we have a couple of potentials. We've got some teams that we expect to perform well. Mr. Dan Campbell's Detroit Lions. We'll talk about that here shortly. But yeah, this slate is very, very unique. Any macro thoughts before we kind of really dig in here about the slate this week?
Not much to tack on there. Like you, I think it's the most like wide open we've seen. And obviously we'll have players with, a high ownership like you always do, but the optimals are going to spit something out for people to chase. But this feels like the first week where I feel like completely against the grain for some of the early optimal stuff. So it's like I said, so like you, I just feel like it is wide open this week. I think it just kind of is like your eye of the beholder. It's a very eye of the beholder slate.
Yes. Yeah. And that makes it really, really fun. From a like theoretical standpoint, also, this is another slate where we really don't have to do too much to be different. We really don't have to go too off the board here to generate some fairly meaningful leverage. We'll talk about that a little bit more here. For those OWS fam, you'll see more of that in the end around, which is my game theory piece that I release every Saturday. You will also see more of that in the Slate podcast, which again is Inner Circle only, behind the paywall, unfortunately. But that is a 2-hour mega session where Zandamir and I go through the entirety of the slate, talking theory and giving you guys the most actionable intel right before the slate kicks off. Before we continue here, we got to do the Mandos. 50% off full season of the Bink machine. That brings your cost under $75 for the rest of the season for the optimizer at 1 week season. This is a week 5 promo only. You can go to oneweekseason.com and click the banner to get 50% off the remainder of the season for the Bink machine. I also got to get through a read for Sharp Football. The same code, ceiling, CEILING, that we had last week now gets you 50% off any of the fantasy football products, weekly, monthly, season long, anything they got going on over there at Sharp Football. we have new exclusive deal for our listeners. You can unlock all of Rich Hribar's exclusive fantasy football analysis over at Sharp Football for 50% off using the code CEILING. Just go to sharp.football and use code CEILING on a weekly, monthly, or season-long fantasy football package to save big. Let's go. That is huge. So a couple of big deals for you all for this week. And again, those are week 5 only. So don't waste time. Go check those out. All right, that was a lot of talkies.
You're a professional.
Yes, we are professionals. I can read good.
You are.
Let's talk about the slate, man. Again,
Yes.
you mentioned that we really don't have a lot of like clear game environment, team environment type bets. But there's 2 really spots that really stand out to me, and I want to get your take on those spots.
Let's do it.
The first is the Cowboys and the Jets game. We look at these 2 teams, and I kind of did some teasers over on the Twitter machine, the X machine, throughout the week as I was writing this game up, and I'm interested to hear kind of your take here. Let's talk about some big glaring things. The Cowboys rank 32nd in total pass yards allowed per game at 309.25. They have a 3.3% sack rate that ranks 29th. They have the 6th deepest ADOT allowed at 8.8, and they're allowing the highest deep ball throw rate at 15.6%. They're allowing the most yards per attempt at 9.16. They're allowing the 3rd highest completion rate at 73.3%. You're seeing where I'm going here.
Yep.
All of this while they are still generating pressure at an above average 25.7% rate. This is a very interesting setup to me for this Jets game and these Cowboys, in that like these 2 teams really can't stop a fly defensively. They're allowing big plays, and particularly the Cowboys, they're allowing splash plays. They're generating splash plays. That is like all the makings to me to be a potential blow up spot. The question is, like, can the Jets kind of force the issue here? Do you think they can? Is this a spot where we can overstack, we can load up on?
I mean, Russell Wilson did, so like,
Right? At least he's thrown deep, but
that's true.
or was.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is the Cowboys are giving up like a ton because they play so much zone under Matt Eberflus. Like they're giving up a ton of rushing production to quarterbacks.
Right.
Uh,
And
right
to
now.
backfields.
Yeah, and to backfields, but they are 29th in rushing yards to the quarterbacks, and they're facing a quarterback who would love to run.
Yeah.
The 3 games that Justin Fields has played, 48, 49, 81 yards. Obviously, had the highlight real play reverse field on Monday night. He leads the NFL in scramble rate, because if Fields is going to drop back and that first read's taken away to Garrett Wilson, obviously.
The only read, yeah.
The only read to Garrett Wilson is taken away. What is he going to do? He's out the gate, man. He's running. So, yeah, I do think the Jets can push this game from an offensive efficiency stance, just because this Cowboys, the structure of the defense will favor kind of what Fields wants to do anyways. And when the first read is there, Garrett Wilson will catch the ball. So I do have faith in this game kind of being there. And it's a very just condensed offense too. That's why, I know, famous last words, local man about to get dragged by Justin Fields. But the Jets have such a condensed offensive usage tree, and we removed Braylon Allen's goal line role from the equation as well. It really does open the door for Breece Hall. He still have to contend with Justin Fields near the goal line, but up until this point of the season, Allen had out-touched Hall 4-1 inside the 10-yard line. The other avenue too is when you play a lot of zone coverage, what else do you allow too when the quarterback doesn't scramble? Checkdowns, because you're taking the first read away. They're getting crushed by backs out of the backfield, and Breece Hall's second on the team in targets. So to me, the one guy that screams out to me from like a leverage stance or like an upside stance, especially when you remove Brain out from the equation, is Mr. Breece Hall.
100%. I love that shout. And this is a spot where like you can look to capture all of the expected production, or I say all, but like a solid chunk of the expected production through Justin Fields, Breece Hall, and Garrett Wilson. This is a stack it up spot if I've ever seen one, particularly for small field, single entries type stuff. If we look at the other side of this game, I want to get some quick stats out there as well. Tight end Jake Ferguson has a 0.34 targets per route run with 17.2 expected fantasy points per game in the last 2 games without CeeDee Lamb. What does that compare to the field? That ranks first in the NFL over the course of the full season by 28.4% higher than the second place Trey McBride. So this is like a massive, massive role that we are looking at for Mr. Jake Ferguson. We also look at George Pickens. This Jets team is playing a fairly significant amount of single high, and George Pickens has absolutely eviscerated single high coverages or alignments over the last 3 seasons. So we're looking at a spot where like both of those guys are primed for massive ceiling here. And then you look at the running situation, and we get like an injection of a run game coordinator that used to be with the Cardinals. Now the Cardinals are absolutely struggling on the ground, and Dallas with Javonte Williams is seeing a career revival. So this is a spot where, I mean, Javonte Williams, 36.5% stuff rate. He's breaking tackles, 0.11 missed tackles forced per attempt. His contact balance is on full display. He is generating 3.05 yards after contact per attempt. So this is a spot where, like, dude, all of Javonte Williams, you can throw in Dak Prescott if you want, play the other side of this. George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, like, I want it all, dude.
It is probably the best game environment, I think, for both teams in a complete onslaught type game. You look at Javonte Williams, out of 43 running backs that have 25 or more touches, he's 5th in success rate. He's 6th in rate of runs to go for a first down or touchdown. Only James Cook has a higher rate of runs over expectation, yardage gained, than Javonte Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you remove Miles Sanders here. We should see Jaden Blue active, but how likely is he to get touches?
Right.
So it's going to be a big Javonte Williams role. The passing game for Dallas, I think, is interesting as a proxy of what the Jets are able to do on offense.
Right.
If the Jets are running the football, so no teams had more than over 30 or more pass attempts against the Jets yet. So that's kind of where Jake Ferguson's getting by, right? Like, Jake Ferguson is running like the all-time, like, if you have Jake Ferguson in your main event teams on FFPC, you are living the high life, because he is running like the PPR scam of PPR scams right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting you 6.5 yards per catch. That's tight end 64, 5.7 yards per target. But Dallas is running so many plays, and he's the second target in the offense, that he's just stacking up all these catches. So what if the Cowboys only throw 28 passes this game? Like, what happens to Jake Ferguson? This can be interesting to see what happens. So the strength of the way you kind of think you play the Dallas passing game is what you believe the Jets offense is doing, the way you would stack this game.
Right.
So if you're playing, Breece Hall to kind of go off in this game, and he probably has multiple avenues to go off, but if you think it's like a Breece Hall rushing game, you probably don't bring that back with Jake Ferguson. You might do that with like a George Pickens, like a guy who can get over on like the one play, or rely on the touchdown equity. If you think it's a Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields game, where now the tempo and the Jets are now running, more plays than they typically, or not more plays that they typically do from like a running stance, but from like a passing stance, like getting more chunk plays, then that's where you would want to have like the Jake Ferguson bring back on that side of it.
Yeah, so I like accessing the ceiling of the potential, or I should say the potential ceiling of the Cowboys through the concentrated nature of the Jets. So I actually like anchoring this with Justin Fields, with Breece Hall, with Garrett Wilson, and then you can bring it back with any number really of the 3 primary Cowboys pieces, because they are also expected to be highly concentrated. Because there are avenues to failure from this game, and that's kind of the theme of this slate.
The Jets.
It's the Jets, and we typically have seen the Cowboys kind of be a little bit more reactive under Schottenheimer. I mean, he's not a Dan Campbell. We'll talk about him shortly. He's not going to go run up 50 because he wants to go put up 50 and he wants to like look big on the sidelines. Like, this is a little bit different situation. So they kind of need some sort of pushing effort from the other side. I just think if there is an opponent for which the Jets can succeed offensively early, and that is the key here, it's probably the Cowboys. So look at last week. They marched the field. They have 11 carries versus 1 pass attempt on their first drive, and then they fumble entering the end zone. That could look a lot different, obviously, if they're putting up those points early. It's kind of where I'm at here. Anything else to talk about from this side? Any tertiary aspects from either team that we're interested in here?
No, not really. I don't know if people get to like Mason Taylor stuff, but
yeah, I'm not about Mason, man. Honestly,
me neither.
There's 2 things I should say. I should add. Javonte Williams is ranked 4th in expected fantasy points per game this season, which is a massive, massive role, obviously. And then Jake Ferguson scored his first touchdown last week since week 13 of 2023. So it's been a minute since he has found the paint. But he got in there last week. Do need to mention those.
Love that.
It's not all upside. All right, let's talk about these Lions. One of the most interesting aspects of this game to me is the fact that Jamar Chase and Jahmyr Gibbs are priced within $100 on DK. You throw something at a wall and see what sticks. The vast majority of people are going to bite off on Jahmyr Gibbs there. That makes Jamar Chase fairly interesting to me in this of searching for ceiling. We have seen the on sideline blowups. We have seen him get in Zach Taylor's face. We saw this team absolutely just quit playing last week. They score 3 points on their opening drive and they barely see any success after that. But this is still Jamar Chase, man. Like, I get it. Jake Browning is not great, but if they come out and they simplify things and they're looking to get the ball into Jamar Chase's hands early, which I highly suspect we see, there's some upside here. What are your thoughts on the Bengals side of this spot?
Yeah, and it almost helps Jamar Chase from a DFS stance this week that he played on Monday, which is usually we never say that because it's usually a guy overperforms and then he's too cheap because they can't adjust the pricing, like maybe a Jalen Waddle this week.
Right.
But the fact that Jamar Chase was they couldn't bring his pricing down this week probably helps him. Because
or helps us at least.
That's what I said. Yeah, it helps us because, well, one, just from like a game theory stance, he makes a lot of sense because you can put either Jahmyr Gibbs or Amon-Ra St. Brown in your flex. And if you are chasing points, you just pivot to Jamar Chase with that because you have like that pricing leverage swap. I also think there's a pro case to be made outside of game theory for Jamar Chase here. I mean, I never expected him to be good last week against the Broncos. I thought it was just a terrible matchup for like lead wide receiver, an offense that needs to flow through a wide receiver one, right? But here, there actually is some opportunity. The Lions are a more hyper-aggressive defense than necessarily even the Broncos played on Monday night because they just didn't respect Chase Brown. But we have a little bit of a cluster injury here to the Detroit secondary. DJ Reed was placed on injured reserve. He came out of the game last week. Kirby Joseph has not practiced yet. We were recording this at noon on Friday, so Friday practice excluded for Kirby Joseph, and he has not practiced yet to this point. I checked before we got on, and I had yet to find any news. Terrion Arnold is going to now be tasked to guarding at least one of these guys to the Bengals, potentially more man coverage stuff. He's led the second most receiving yards and coverage to this point in the NFL. I'm definitely not a PFF grade person to his gospel, but he's 101st among cornerbacks in terms of grade. They're going to have to move Amik Robertson from nickel to outside. Avonte Maddox now goes from a bench role to nickel. This week they also signed Trey Flowers. So I do think there's a little more upside than we've seen the past 2 weeks of Jake Browning go against the Brian Flores, the Hell defense, and then the Broncos defense, and then this defense. Not that the Bengals are going to score 25 plus points in this game, but I do think they're going to have more success in terms of like we're going to see some more functionality from their offense and getting Jamar Chase the football. And the target stuff has still been there for him. So we know the opportunities there for him. He is volatile still because the offense is volatile, but when the context of this show, he is 100% like a box checker for like what we look like in terms of like pivots, leverage, a guy that's not going to be owned, but is going to have like a run out here to have a potentially spike week.
Love it, dude. I love it. And we kind of know, like you mentioned, we kind of know where the volume is expected to go. This is not like Chase Brown is struggling. We don't run against the Lions already. They already force a high pass rate over expectation. T. Higgins is a guy that needs like multiple touchdowns in his current role. We see that with Joe Burrow every now and then. It's very, very hard to visualize that happening with Jake Browning. So yeah, like if I'm attacking this game environment, and specifically if I'm attacking the Lions, I really like adding Jamar Chase as a piece to that. I'm really not looking to go out of my way to play Jamar Chase as a one-off this week, but we like the Lions. So why not throw in Jamar Chase into that discussion or that equation a little bit, sprinkle that in, chew on that for this week. Now let's talk about the Lions. I'll just throw it over to you. Like, where are we going with the Lions this week with Dan Campbell, Madman, at the helm here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, all the Lions.
Yes, please eat it up.
Yeah.
I'm the same, dude. This has the feel of that like random 5 touchdown Jared Goff game. Like it always happens like once or twice a year.
Goff,
Like
I like a lot, period. Like,
yes.
anyways.
Yes. And we're expecting ownership on Jahmyr Gibbs. We're expecting ownership on Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's not prohibitive by any means, by any stretch. We're not expecting a lot of ownership on like Jameson Williams, on David Montgomery. Talk to me a little about Demo this week.
Yeah, I think it's about the ancillary guys too for me this week, because obviously I don't need to sell you on Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
Although right now, like Gibbs is tracking because Jonathan Taylor's tracking to be really popular and Devin Achane's tracking to be popular on both sites. That he's kind of lost in the middle of those two guys. So just keep tabs on him. I mean, I would love to get Jahmyr Gibbs against the Bengals at like 12% ownership if we could potentially get that, because he has taken over a larger role here these past 2 weeks versus the opening 2 weeks. Now, the one caveat is that there's a weird narrative going around in this game because, David Montgomery's from Cincinnati. He's going home to play in front of his family. His sister had suffered an accident. She can't travel, doesn't get to watch him play live and is going to be there live. So this is anytime there's an anytime touchdown, David Montgomery
yes,
cashing in this game. I don't know how many touches he's going to get, period, but he's scoring a touchdown.
Right.
Because especially too, when you look at the way the Detroit Lions backfield's constructed, right? And what we just saw on Monday night, J.K. Dobbins power back, R.J. Harvey and space back, and what they did, going for 203 total yards against them. This is the evolution of that backfield, in terms of Pokemon sense. This is them getting to the final form, this Lions backfield. So
you didn't know you all were going to get Pokemon throughout shout outs.
Yeah, so you can easily see a 200 to 250 yards from scrimmage game from the Lions backfield too in this game. That's an outcome here as well. But I like the ancillary guys the most. Jameson Williams, who they're trying to get going. We saw the targets go up last week. He left some plays on the field, got lost turning around on that one deep ball from Goff. Goff overthrew him on one. They was behind the backfield. He had another drop. And then the other guy that I think that is the real wild card on the slate is Sam Laporta. Because we're going to see the optimals have just been giving everyone Tyler Warren for weeks. And we're going to see Tyler Warren again be the most popular tight end slate. You brought up Jake Ferguson. He's going to be popular as well, especially in a site like DraftKings that's full PPR. Sam Laporta against this Bengals defense, which we have targeted with tight end play kind of repeatedly and to open this season too. Because we know he has the touchdown equity as well and have one of these 2 touchdown games. He's a guy I also don't want to leave on the table here.
Do you buy anything into his splits against zone versus man against a zone heavy Bengals team?
No, because people tried to push that last week too. And I still think it's still that stuff. So here's the one thing we do caveat versus coverages, right? Is coverages are great. It can give you a signal of where teams maybe have first read looks and stuff like that. But you still have to factor in opponents, right? And last week, people were trying to push the man coverage stuff for Laporta against the Browns. It's dude, are you not seeing what the Browns are doing to every tight end that they faced?
Yeah.
They're melting these dudes. So it's what you always have to caveat yards per hour and stuff, especially with a 4-week sample for the season, is who have these guys played? Where is this stuff being driven to? Right. And then you factor in the matchups as well, because beating the Chicago Bears man coverage is different than beating the Cleveland Browns man coverage or the Denver Broncos man coverage, right? Teams that play a lot of heavy man coverage, because who knows if we get there too, when we talk about the Eagles. But this Bengals zone coverage doesn't scare you on any level versus for anyone. So I mean, I'm not going crazy about it.
I love this comment. I want to talk about it real quick. The problem with the Lions is that they have too many viable options on offense. That is going to be the general sentiment from the field, I think. I think we're far more likely to see the onesie twosies. Let's pick out our favorite guy. Let's play Jahmyr Gibbs alone. Let's play Amon-Ra alone. What happens on this slate where we just talked about in the opening, where there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of thin plays, there's a lot of we don't know really where to attack. What happens if the Lions come out and score 5 touchdowns?
That's why I said yes when you asked.
Yes,
the question, I said yes.
I want them. I want them all. Dan Campbell, I love the Lions because Dan Campbell is a guy that you can't really quantify fully. There's a lot of like the variance that goes into football of like, we don't know what Dan Campbell, if he ate something for breakfast that made him angry on Sunday morning, is he's just going to come out and like, just he want to take over the world. So like, there's that aspect of like, there's additional upside with this team always. And if the
And when
field
they're
is
big
not-
favorites, they go crazy.
right, we see these blow up games typically on their own. Like they don't have to be pushed. Like yes, we've seen some games in the previous 2 seasons where like they were pushed and they did have to air it out 35, 40 times. But Jared Goff is a guy and this offense where he can throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns on 32 pass attempts. So I like the Lions. I want all of them. I think
I mean, just
Jamar,
all these spots going back to last year. I mean, they beat, they put 52 up on the Jaguars and they're big favorites, 52 up on the Titans and they're big favorites, 47 on Dallas and they're big favorites. They were big favorites against the Lions to open this season, put up 50 on them. They're huge favorites against the Browns, scored 34. Like,
right.
they score points. And when you look at like the way people have played this in past, like playing all the Lions has been extremely profitable in these tournaments. Like just playing them all.
I love it. And also include Jamar Chase in that discussion as well.
It is harder though to play all of the guys and Jamar Chase.
It is hard. Yes, it is hard. That's why I think it's very, very interesting that Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jahmyr Gibbs are all like chunked together in pricing. It makes it very, very interesting from a theoretical standpoint this week. More on that tomorrow for the OWS fam. I think we should talk about this Raiders and Colts game. We have a healthy game total of 48 points. We've got the Colts favored by 7. Talk to me a little bit about how you're seeing this one.
Yeah, and the Raiders have been a team I've kind of gone ping pong back and forth. They've helped me. They've let me down. They're giving me just random results. But I can say one thing, like it's pretty consistent, even though for fantasy football it hasn't been as bad. But Geno Smith has not played a good first month of football, or the last 3 weeks of football. Week 1 he did play good football. The last 3 weeks he's found his way to some fantasy points in a couple of these outings, like the Commanders game, but did not play good that game. This offense has really not found itself right now, and they're really struggling. They'll hit some splash plays, but they have no down-to-down consistency. Last week, even though Ashton Janty had a really good box score, they still weren't even like an effective running team.
No.
Either. Like, I mean, he had the big long run that he had, but he still only averaged 0.7 yards before contact on his carries. That was 22nd in the NFL last week. Colton Miller injures his ankle. He's not going to play. He had his only 2 catches were touchdowns. He's still RB40 in target share. They couldn't get the ball consistently to Jacoby Myers in a favorable matchup. Geno, like you said, Geno just played really bad in that game on Sunday. They're just a really tough team to feel positively about because they have no offensive flow to them at all. And that's what makes me a little bit more scared. After a month of football, I'm way more scared on them, where the Colts is I'm not. Even though a lot of people will probably look at maybe the fantasy results for Daniel Jones. Like Daniel Jones still played an effective football game last week and they lost.
That was one of the top games I've watched over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Just from a football real world, like what the chess match was going on the field, it was absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah, so I just feel more confident in what the Colts are doing. Can they drag the Raiders here? Maybe, but I have right now, after a month of football, like I have a hard time like going back to the Raiders here.
Dude, the Raiders I would liken to, well, I'll say this. The Raiders are experiencing systemic failure on offense. I would liken that to the Panthers. I would liken that to, and I'm sorry for those that see a 4-0 team, but I would liken that to the Eagles. This is a systemic failure currently, and I do not expect these teams to start performing better if or until we see those early down tendencies change. With the Eagles, it's a lot of tipping their hand. I mean, I saw a tweet and I included this in my write-up of that game, but like from shotgun, they're running or they're throwing over 70% of the time. From under center or nickel, they're running the football over 80% of the time. It's just systemic failure to where like teams are able to play these teams straight up. We look at the Panthers. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in Rico Dowdle this week. Rico Dowdle is a far inferior running back on paper, his underlying metrics, compared to Chuba Hubbard. And this team has such a high first, second down, early down rush rate that we could just see more systemic failure here. We look at Bryce Young. He is throwing for just over 50% completion, and he has like 20 first downs on 90, almost 90, 89 pass attempts on second and third down with more than 5 yards to go this season. And how is that happening? Because they are just ineffectively running the football on early downs. They're getting in these long down and distance situations and just experiencing systemic failure from the offense. So I would liken the Raiders to that. They are not doing enough on early downs to keep opposing offenses or defenses on their toes. They are running Ashton Jeanty into a brick wall because they are one of the worst run blocking offensive lines. And I think there's just risk of systemic failure again this week for this Raiders team. So can Jonathan Taylor, and we have some injuries to keep it in tab on for the Colts. I expect we're going to see Alec Pierce back. I expect we're going to see Michael Pittman grit this one out. I expect we're going to see Adonai Mitchell back to that kind of fourth wide receiver role. But can we see like Michael Pittman, quote unquote, get there? Can we see Jonathan Taylor get there? Daniel Jones get there on their own without any Raiders? I think the answer is probably yes. I think the paths to that happening are fewer than the field will realize this week. That's how I'm kind of seeing this game. Anything to add there?
No, that's really how I feel as well. And I did check before, and Pittman was at practice today, so it looks like he's at least going to be. I mean, there could be like risk of re-injury or something or aggravation in game, but looks like he's going to play. You get Alec Pierce back. It feels like a game two where you could choke him out with Jonathan Taylor at some point. And that's why I keep if Tyler Warren being as popular as he is, and I have no problem playing Tyler Warren as well either. I think he's a really good play, especially against this Raiders defense that Patrick Graham's just running out all the single high cover 3 stuff too, which is, you want to attack that with tight end play. So I think he's a really sound play. I could just see this being a game similar to some of the earlier Colts games where they like the Dolphins Colts game and the Titans Colts game, where you're probably a Daniel Jones not like pushing 30 to 35 dropbacks.
100%. I'm with you there. Because how are the Colts, and we'll finish the discussion with this. Like it comes down to like how the Colts are trying to win. This is not a team that's coming out pushing pace. This is not a team that is looking to attack aggressively downfield. They are very methodical, and they are looking to stay out of long down and distance. They are looking to sustain drives. So it now becomes like, can this game environment blow up? How does that happen? Likely from their opponent, and it's less likely for that to happen this week, is the thought process there. We got the birthday narrative with Pity. Watch
a birthday tuds?
Yes, birthday tuddies. The problem with Pittman is like he's consistently going to get you 14 to 18 fantasy points. Ceiling beyond that, he kind of needs a spike in volume, less likely this week. The Pittmans, these more possession-y type, the Drake Londons, you typically need that spike in volume for that archetype of player to really return like a GPP ceiling score. All right, let's talk about. I want to spend some real quick couple minutes talking about the Giants and the Saints. The Giants, we'll call them. This is an interesting setup because the field is probably just going to see Malik Neighbors is out. Where does the upside come from? Breaking this game down is kind of fun to me because like of who Jackson Dart is and what we saw from the Giants last week, who the Giants defense is and how that meshes up against Spencer Rattler. It's very interesting because the Giants are pretty much like their front 4, maybe front 7, and then not really anything behind that. How do you kind of look to take advantage of that? Quick passing, short intermediate, middle of the field, in breaking routes, get the ball in your playmakers' hands quickly. And that's kind of what Spencer Rattler is actually doing well this season. It's an interesting setup. Do you see any upside from this game?
This one's really tricky, right? Because like the Saints run a lot of plays, but they run a lot of plays because they don't run a lot of plays well.
Right.
They've run the second most plays in the NFL. And they have 4 plays of 20 or more yards all season.
Right.
By far the fewest. so from an upside stance, it is hard to like get there, like because they're creating all this volume for these players, but that's really it. Like they're just creating volume for guys. And then when you look at the way the Giants play, they're really rushing the quarterback well, but they're not stopping the run very well. And we saw a little bit last week with the Saints, like if they can run the football, they actually are willing to run the football a lot as well too.
Right, Kendrick's stepping up.
And also the Giants in their first game at Jackson Dart were extremely run heavy. They actually had the second lowest dropback rate in the league last week. So the Saints aren't stopping the run. So it's like, this is a game where we're going to have like 45 handoffs. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
This game's going to have like 45 run plays. Like, that's my vibe from it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kind of look at. And so it's like, can we get any upside from there? Obviously Cam Scadaboo has some upside. My son, Cam Scadaboo, is making the rounds out there as well. But yeah, it's really hard for me to see like a real path here, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the pace of this game, but the Saints are like a Fugazi pace team.
Right.
Like, it's not like the Commanders where they're running no huddle, right? And they're dragging teams into some shootouts. The Saints are just running a lot of plays, but not really going anywhere. And they have to run a lot of plays because they aren't going anywhere.
Right. So we talked about the lack of like that downfield connection this season for the Saints. That really has affected Rashid Shaheed's upside. But we're still getting volume on Jawan Johnson. We're still getting volume on Chris Olave. There's an interesting dynamic where we could have like two tight ends. I don't know if Taysom is going to make it back this week, but I expect we might see an addition of a tight end here. What the hell's his name? Foster Moreau. Thank you. I'd expect we're going to see Foster Moreau back. How does that influence Jawan Johnson's snap rate and route participation rate? I would expect not heavily in his first game of the season.
Jawan's dealing with a little bit of an ankle thing as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces, right? So like,
Cesar Ruiz is also out in this game. Like, there's a
ton of moving pieces here. But it is interesting to me. After a week after Chris Olave failed at chalk at high ownership, I'm kind of interested in potentially going there, like a mini correlation here with like just Jackson Dart and Chris Olave. Any thoughts there? Am I just kind of grabbing at straws?
No, I think Dart is still playable at his salary, because I see him as someone like Drake May, where you don't necessarily have to stack him. Like, I think he's a very Drake May-esque fantasy scorer, and even almost too much like Drake May, because he had that one run where he ping pong balled off of like 4 dudes.
Oh dude, he had some smelling salts for sure in his first NFL start. He was hyped.
Yeah, I mean, he thought he was hurt. He thought his ribs got destroyed. He got no one play. The Saints don't put any pressure on the quarterback. So like, we don't really have that as concern. I think he's playable by himself as well. I think Scadaboo is playable by himself, Alec Hart in this game too as well. So there are some onesies. I think this game where it's hard for me to like talk myself into just like taking all the pieces in this game. I think it would be more, I'd be trying to pick something small out of it. Like, I don't want to do Dart with Slate in, bring Olave back. Like, I don't want to like Wandale, whatever your flavor is.
Right. That's why I really like the skinny correlations. I really like the one-offs potential for upside on a slate where like all these players are relatively cost effective, and you can kind of access value in spots that the field isn't likely to get to this week. That's really my interest in this spot. I think the next game that we need to talk about is a potential late game hammer here in the Commanders and the Chargers. You've mentioned the Commanders are a pace up team. We also have the Chargers, who continue just pushing the ball through the air. I mean, they're still leading the league in pass rate over expectation. So this is a very interesting setup. And now we have mega injuries with the Commanders where they're getting their quarterback back. Terry McLaurin is going to miss this week. Noah Brown is going to miss this week. Deebo Samuel is banged up, has yet to practice, but he traveled with the team. So are there spots for upside here from this game environment?
Well, I do think there is. This is a game, I think, where would be a nice little single entry spot, because this is a game that has a lot of volatility to it. You have star power and you have upside here. But like the amount of injuries on both sides of the football, and Jaden Daniels just coming back. Typically, I've done a study on this too, where quarterbacks that have multi-week absences are the one position where you typically see a decline like the first week back. because it's such a rhythm position, right? Like if you're rusty playing quarterback position, it's tough to get back. But if the Chargers are giving up a ton of rushing yards to quarterbacks. So if that's an out for Jaden Daniels. The other thing too is the removal of Terry McLaurin from this offense is significant because they have nobody that wins downfield.
Zero. I mean, it's Chris Moore. It's Chris Moore.
Yeah, they have nobody that wins downfield. So it is.
Yeah.
And as much as we would like Debo too, like getting the target share and like his fit for this offense, he's been used a little bit more in the run game since the Austin Eckler injury. But like for Daniels to have like that super spike week, like he always would hit those big plays to Terry like that. Those were always part of the ride. So it's gonna be probably a more methodical version of Jaden Daniels in this Cliff Kingsbury offense too. It's gonna be a lot of the horizontal raid. Maximum horizontal. How horizontal can it get this week?
I'm so horizontal, bro.
Yeah, and with Jesse Minter's also paired to the way Jesse Minter plays defense, right?
Right.
You know, a lot of shell coverage, wants you to throw underneath. So that's where this game gets kind of sapped. But we do have star power here, so I think it could get there. And then the other side, like where the Chargers injuries line up versus the Commanders injuries, because the Commanders are beat up in the secondary. Chargers are beat up on the offensive line. No Joe Alt this week. They're going to get Mekhi Becton back, who missed the 1 week with a concussion, but the edges are a problem. And the Commanders are really good in their front seven. They're like the Giants in a sense. Like their front is good. They play the run well, but the back end's beat up. Marshawn Lattimore looks real rough to open this year.
He is toasty.
And cornerback's one of those positions, like when you lose it, it's hard to get back. Like look at Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard, he gave it a month and was like, you know what?
Yeah. Peace. Deuces.
But guys, because it's a position like it's hard to just like when you lose a step, I guess real rough. It's hard to get back.
It's like wide receivers, man.
Yep. But
it's
the past 2 weeks, it's been a problem for Justin Herbert. And you were necessarily like not crazy when you got pressure against the Broncos, but last week the Giants have yet to really get a lot of pressure, and then Abdul Carter is an absolute demon. Herbert's basically been pressured on half of his dropbacks the past 2 weeks, like 49%, 46%. And under pressure these past 2 weeks, 14 of 38 passing, 4 yards per pass attempt. It's been rough, man. It's really killed. That's why Elmarion Hampton started to catch some more passes because the ball's coming out to these running backs. So it's really been a hindrance on this offense, and they want to still throw the football a lot. And it's just like, if you want to drop back this much and your quarterback's getting hit, like they lost to the New York Giants, like because they couldn't protect. Because they couldn't protect. So, but again, the Commanders have all these injuries on the back end. If we can get protection, the Commanders, when they don't get pressure on the opposing quarterback, only the Cowboys allow more yards per pass attempt. They're 29th in touchdown rate. So
second deepest 8 out aloud. They're just giving it up on the back end.
So there is still a path to upside. This is a laptop game, right? Like this is, you stack it up in single entry. Doesn't get that you close the laptop, but then if you hit,
just go enjoy an afternoon.
Yeah, but then if you do, if you do get the upside outcome for this game, it could be hot still. Like it's why I think you still have to, single entry fire in this game.
I think so too. I think this is not my hidden hammer of the week, but he is a potential candidate, and that's Ladd McConkey. You look at his expected fantasy points per game. You look at his volume per game. It almost to a T mirrors what he was doing last season. Is there room here for Ladd to put up an 86-yard touchdown? I think so. I think there is the upside case to be made. And Quentin Johnson is performing as like the alpha in this offense. That throw between 2 defenders for their touchdown before the half last week against the Giants was chef's kiss perfection. It was beautifully executed all around. I think there's upside here for Quentin Johnston. I think there's upside here for Ladd McConkey. The one guy that I am really not like overly excited to go to from this game is Keenan Allen, who kind of just, we know what we're going to get. We know he's a 65-70% snap rate player, 80-85% route participation rate player, but we know it's a low ADOT. We know he kind of needs volume. That is a little bit less likely here. So love QJ, love Ladd McConkey as the potential, like his breakout is probably coming at some point. It just feels gross, but I want to be there when it happens type play.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at as well. I think both those guys, QJ and Ladd McConkey, can be played as one-offs effectively and in a plus EV fashion. And I think that they make very interesting game environment bets too, if you want to stack this up. That said, because of like your exploration of like who the Commanders are right now and what we expect, I prefer, like, if you're betting on this game environment, I prefer anchoring it to the Chargers, and then bringing a Commanders piece back if you're going that route. Anything else to add there?
No. I like it. You can get the path here. I mean, the one thing about McConkey is like, this is 2 years in a row now where they just don't use him in the red zone. Like, so you need the big play from him, and we're seeing like this evolution from Quentin Johnston where it's all just coming together, man. Like, and like typically when a player of his physical archetype is putting it together, it's tough for those teams to not want to swerve into that. And we saw that last week with the Chargers where like his first read stuff went through the roof. Like they're starting to now push the offense through Quentin Johnston, where he was a big play red zone guy. Now we're starting to see like the full evolution of like, oh, we can actually like he's like putting it together. We can now start to funnel stuff through him. I will say everyone panicking Quentin Ladd McConkey, he is still getting like hell open. Like he's doing the stuff.
There,
it's just he's had that stuff shift from him where it's not so much the first read stuff, and he's not the insertion of Keenan Allen has been a problem for Ladd McConkey in this sense. Is one, he was out targeting the red zone and end zone by QJ last year already. And where Keenan Allen is making an impact is his clear rapport with Justin Herbert as a foxhole target. Right. And when I say like foxhole target, his third down target rate is 5th in the NFL. His red zone target share is top 8 in the NFL. Like, he's not getting a lot of this early down stuff. Even it's like it's when Justin Herbert knows what he's getting in third downs, red zone. He knows where he can lean on this player, and that's where he's kind of making his hay. And he's getting over on fantasy because of the touchdowns, but he's not really doing any yardage or efficiency stuff that he's Darren Waller about. Yes,
in wide receiver form,
right?
Third downs and touchdowns.
Yeah, 9.6 yards per catch would be a career low for him, but third downs and touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't like this. I got to pop this up. Quinn Johnson is glorified Cordell Patterson. No, this dude is doing everything from high pointing dudes. He is like Quinn Johnson has evolved. This is a legitimate playmaker in this offense. I want to end that discussion with Ladd McConkey by saying you are not like the path to Ladd McConkey going off is this getting open against a secondary that is broken and like scoring a long touchdown. So for that reason, I like anchoring him to Justin Herbert and kind of double dipping on that yardage and touchdown bulk upside. And I think that Quentin Johnston makes a fun addition to that team overstack there to kind of double dip there as well. So you're not.
I mean, but everything for Ladd and any place that does like separation metrics or anything, like he is literally still like a top 15 wide receiver across the board and everything. Like,
yeah, and the connection, the amount of balls that have gone off his fingertips this season has been maddening. Like the connection has just like almost been there, but it hasn't been full there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a Ladd McConkey's a bad player thing right now.
No. And it's not
it's more of a usage and the more ascension of Quentin Johnston that is pulled away.
Right. Any other game environment that you want to talk about here before we get into our hidden hammers?
Yeah, I don't know if they're just like I think those are the big ones for just like the game environment stuff. The only one is like the one you kind of touched on is like Panthers, Dolphins, just as like if not win for some of these guys. For the Panther side, but you touched upon the why, right? Like if not why, but I mean, it's just one of those classic cases. Is this a good matchup for the Dolphins defense, or is it a good matchup for the Panthers offense? Like what wins out?
It could be neither. It could be neither, which is gross here. But yeah, like there is risk. Obviously, the Dolphins without Tyreek Hill, the Panthers without Chuba Hubbard, there is that risk of systemic failure. Now, like typically, we want to be buying into that level of uncertainty when the ownership levels are in check too low. So I don't mind like going there. I don't mind if you want to take one-offs from this game. I don't mind if you want to stack this game up at low ownership, just because of the state of the slate. That is MME only for me. I will not be going there in single entry stuff. And I think if
this would be the MME stack because what, like a Bryce Tet Tommy Tremble stack is like
Yeah,
26
Tommy, dude.
is like 26% of your salary.
Yes.
And then Waddle was priced on a Monday. You can easily bring Achane. You can easily bring a Gibbs and a Jonathan Taylor at that stuff. So that's why I say like MME, like you said, because if that hits, that's like massive leverage.
Right.
Because we always look for those cheaper stacks. And again, if they don't hit, you probably weren't going to win money anyway. So this is like
Exactly. Yeah, we're not playing to make our money back here. Like you want to win
yeah.
you want to win
This
a
would be
tournament.
this is not a single. This is a not play to win your money back stack.
Yes. Yes. Which you shouldn't be doing anyway. Go play
But
cash.
yeah, but like Tet, I would say like a Bryce Tet, Tommy Trumbo would be my ugly hammer of the week.
I love it, dude. And you can play Devon Achane in that.
Mm-hmm.
We look at weeks 2 and 3. He saw 19 total targets. I would expect that to become closer to the norm here than the 2 targets he saw last week. So this
And
is
you're not
going,
playing Dowdle.
You're not playing Dowdle. Do not. I'm not playing Dowdle. I don't think you should either. Friends don't let friends play Rico Dowdle. Is a solid moniker here to go by.
And also we didn't touch upon any of the running back situations because we always do like the searching for ceiling stuff, and those guys are like your cash game plays and stuff. But this slate, even with you leading it where it's so wide open, we still haven't reached a slate where you need these guys.
Right.
I still feel like one of the more optimal paths you can take this week is just playing 3 really good running backs. Don't take on Rico Dowdle. Don't take on Michael Carter. Because where do you need to jam this salary at?
Exactly. Now, my hidden hammer is a guy where you can access value, and I have 2. Let's just get into them, shall we?
Yeah,
Let's get into the hidden hammers. I'll go 2. So I'll go 1. I'll go 1. I'll throw it to you, and then I'll go back to ping pong. We'll ping pong it here. My first one is a potential place to access value, and again, quote unquote value, a player that is priced below probably where he should be, in a way that the field is highly unlikely to get to, because they're probably going to the running back position to do so. That is Alec Eomanur. I want to be there.
I would have got you to give me first thing when I got you.
No, I'm glad I took it. That is my first hidden hammer of the week 5 slate. And I think a lot of pieces are kind of coming together all at once for a potential Alec breakout. We know he's been involved in the offense. We've got Calvin Ridley, who just inexplicably played 50% of the offensive snaps last week. And then it was like after the game, oh, by the way, he was dealing with something. It's like, once again, something that should have been brought to my attention yesterday. But Alec is already involved. And I think what the clearest path to upside here is kind of what we've seen from the Cardinals this season. This is a team where if they build a lead in the first half, their second half, they're just going to play off. They're just going to sit back, let you do all that dink and dunk stuff in the middle of the field. They're going to protect the deep areas of the field. We saw what the Panthers were able to do against that already this season, had a massive second half where they scored 3 touchdowns. And Alec is already has that rookie connection with Cam Ward, particularly in the end zone. He scored twice this year. I think if you are this is a spot where you could see Alec with 3 catches for 40 yards in the first half and then go for 6 catches for 100 yards and 2 scores in the second half type, massive ceiling. So I love Alec in this spot. And I think it also, if we were to look at these 2 teams and just structurally say, is this on paper a good matchup for the Titans pass attack? The answer is unequivocally no. The things that the Cardinals do on defense are the exact things that a rookie quarterback like Cam Ward is going to struggle with. They disguise, they're doing all these different things in the secondary. This might be a very ugly first half, particularly if Ridley misses. But in the second half, now a tale of 2 halves, off coverage where he's able to hit his first read in rhythm, there we can start accessing some ceiling. So what do you say about that one?
That one, I mean, you told me I was going to get your guy, and I actually had him I had him on the list. Yeah, they're just simpatico on some of this stuff, but yeah, it's the targets, the opportunities, and also Aomanor is the type of receiver that just vibes with the structure, like a style of football that early Cam Ward is playing. Like he's,
Right.
he's still doing a lot of things from college where he's relying on his arm strength. He's relying on, making one read and giving receivers a chance to play. He's not necessarily making a lot of reads and rhythm plays. Honestly, the best play the Titans have in their playbook right now is Cam Ward scramble to one side of the field and throw it all the way across the other side of the field. It's like their best. That's like the best thing they've cooked up through the opening month of the season.
Right.
Because they hit another one of those last week. But yeah, I mean, you saw him last week at the 30% target share. It's like you said, it's not going to be clean. It's going to be, there are a lot of volatility, a lot of inaccurate targets, but that type of target share, that type of potential touchdown equity, and then jailbreak game script. Like, I think you just throw that at the wall and see what sticks.
100%. All right, give me yours, and then we'll go to my other one. I wonder if you're going to hit this one as well.
Oh, that was it. Well, Aomanor was the guy I was going to do, and then I was going to say just the cheap Panther stack was my two gross ones. So
okay, I'll go with one more, and that is Monsieur Nico Collins. I like Nico Collins' upside in the spot. We have the massive injuries all up and down the Ravens roster. Where they are most affected on the defensive side is the front four and the back end. And that screams to me Nico Collins. Now, what you need and kind of where we've seen Nico be most effective over the last 2 years through all this like poor situational play calling tendencies, which have continued this year, where we've seen him have the eruption game is when they can get him going in the first half. So like, is this a spot where they come out and we see the trademarked 80-yard Nico touchdown in the first quarter? Like, I think if he's going to do it, this is a very, very good spot for that to happen. His price has come down. He's 6,800 on DK. He's probably not going to see a massive amount of ownership here. I like the upside, and it kind of stems from how broken the Ravens are right now. What do you say about that shout?
Oh yeah. I think Nico's a really great, sound tournament play this week. We've gotten everything the last 3 weeks from him. Like everything's back, like the usage. We saw a little bit of creativity from Nick Caley last week. Very little, baby steps forward, but they use pre-snap motion 50% of the time, play action 22% of the time. So I mean, I love that. I love that for him. I love him as a tournament play on this slate particular where there's not a lot of pay up receivers after Amon-Ra. So we got like Nico and Chase to mix into our tournament pool. On the way out the door here, I just want to say, because we touched on this game, Alec Pierce was ruled out, and Shane Steichen, they asked him directly if AD Mitchell was going to play, and his quote was, "We are working through that." So any adjustment to is there any shot that Josh Downs plays in 1 to 2 wide receiver sets for the first time ever in life?
I don't know.
Pittman's got the hamstring. Like, is it just do we just Tyler Warren now? Like, is it
Well, I would hate that. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought Pierce would for sure. He got a full practice in yesterday.
Yep. He was ruled out. And then the direct quote was, "We are working through that." Asked him if AD Mitchell would play.
Was that today?
Yes, that literally was just like minutes ago.
Sick.
So I wanted to throw that on here because we did cover that game, and then everyone would be like, "Well, you guys didn't touch on the thing that happened after you did it." And like, so I mean, would you do anything with that information? Where you're just like,
I don't know, to be honest. That's not an immediate reaction type.
Yeah, no, I actually agree too, because the moving parts with the Michael Pittman hamstring. Josh Downs doesn't play Pittman's or play Alec Pierce's position, but then AD Mitchell, like, does he get penalized for the mistake last week? Also, what a heartbreaker that was, having a lot of AD Mitchell. I saw people were mad at us for recommending AD Mitchell. It makes an insane play. We run the full gambit of AD Mitchell. Like, what an insane play to make that catch, get away from the tackle. Run the whole gambit. He's walking into the end zone, and you knew he legitimately fumbled it because his reaction was to recover the fumble
out of
like
the
way
the end zone.
He knew it too. Like, he completely knew it. What a heartbreaker.
That single play was like a microcosm of like who AD Mitchell is. It was like, that was perfect. That is so talented, but man, the mentals. I think that honestly, if I were to give my first reaction to that news, I think to me it makes AD Mitchell more interesting. I think.
Well, if they're playing.
Well, that's the thing, is like, that's going to lower his ownership, right? Like,
well, no one's going to roster him anyways, I don't think.
Right. So I think that is like, we're talking sub 1% in large field potential there. I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, Ridley, I know, did practice. That's an interesting situation to where, like, how healthy is he after they were so mum's the word on him last week? You can't talk me off Alec, man. I'm in. All right, y'all. That is going to do it for week 5. Again, I am Hilow. He is Rich. You can find our work over at oneweekseason.com. You can get 50% off the remainder of the season for our optimizer, the Bink Machine. You can use code Ceiling over at Sharp Football to get 50% off any of their weekly offerings over there. That'll get you access to everything that Rich has going on over at Sharp .football. Until next week, you all, we will see you at the top of the leaderboards. Peace.
1 week season.